What's up, gamer? My name's Waluko, and today I'm going to show you how to get through Act 7 of Path of Exile 1's campaign faster. As a quick disclaimer, this is not meant to be a super optimal guide for speedrunners to clear through the whole campaign in 2 hours flat. It's meant for beginner and intermediate players to share the tricks that I use and the paths that I take in each act to speed things up as someone who takes 5 to 7 hours on average to go from the beginning of the campaign to the end. You start Act 7 in a town called the Bridge Encampment. There's no one here in particular that you need to talk to right now, so head up to the top left of the zone and go through the door to the broken bridge. This zone contains the objective for a quest called the Silver Locket, but the reward for that quest is just a utility flask, so I almost never take the time to do it. To get to the next zone, just follow the road leading out of the Bridge Encampment and it'll take you to an L-shaped path that leads you directly to the exit. Continue following the road, and when you get to the crossroads the zone is named after, there will be a waypoint. Make sure you get close enough to activate it, then follow the path that leads toward the bottom right side of the screen and go through the door that leads to the Fellshrine Ruins. Once again, continue following the road and it'll eventually lead you to a zone called the Crypt. The Crypt has 2 distinct sections. The first section has 2 objectives, and unfortunately their spawning locations can vary pretty wildly based on how the layout generates. Thankfully, the section isn't too big, so it won't take that long to explore. The first objective is an Ascendancy Trial, so make sure to look for the book icon on your minimap that marks its location while you're exploring. After you clear the trial, the other objective is a door that's disguised as a sarcophagus. Thankfully, that sarcophagus has a door icon on the minimap, so it's pretty easy to tell when you found the right one. Click on it and the door will open for you to the second section of the zone. The layout of the second section also varies pretty wildly, so I can't tell you which direction to go, but your goal here is to find a box marked on your map with an exclamation mark called the Container of Sins. When you click on it, a quest item called Maligaro's map will fall out. Collect it, go back to town, then use the waypoint to return to the crossroads. This time in the crossroads, you need to follow the road that goes toward the top left side of the zone. This will lead you to the Chamber of Sins level 1. The layout of this place is exactly the same as it was in Act 2, and the first objective you have to reach is the big round room with the waypoint in it. When you get there, you should see a crafting recipe and an NPC named Silk somewhere near the middle of the room. You don't need to talk to Silk just yet, but grab the crafting recipe, then click on the machine labeled as a map device. A window will open up with a 2x2 grid and some buttons at the bottom. Put the Maligaro's map item that you picked up earlier into the map device, then click the activate button below the grid. This will open 6 portals around the map device to a new zone called Maligaro's Sanctum. This is your first introduction to Path of Exile's endgame mapping system. Each of these portals represent one time that you can enter the zone opened by the map device. If you leave the map or die and get kicked out, any portals you use to enter the zone will be gone. If you use all 6 portals and leave or get killed one more time, there will be no more portals to let you re-enter the zone and the instance will close. In the endgame, that means you'll have to use a new map to open a new zone, but at this point in the campaign, if you use all 6 portals to Maligaro's Sanctum, you can simply click on the map device again and the Maligaro's map item will still be there. So you can just click the activate button and open 6 more portals to try the zone again. Your goal inside each map is to explore, kill monsters for loot, then find and kill the map's boss. The layout of Maligaro's Sanctum is very different from layout to layout, so I can't give specific directions for which way to go, but the zone generally consists of several small plateaus connected at the corners by skinny bridges made of wooden planks. So if you're exploring and can't seem to find the way to go, check all of the crevices at each corner of the map. The boss of this place is another version of Maligaro, whom you originally fought near the end of Act 4. When you find his arena, it's very important that you open a portal right outside his boss room. In maps, portals act as respawn points, so if you don't open a portal and you die, when you re-enter the map you'll be back at the very beginning of the zone where the portal originally started. If you do open the portal near the boss room, then you'll spawn back into the zone right next to the door and you can just walk right back in. Maligaro has a couple different phases where he summons other mini-bosses you fought at different points in the campaign, but overall he's not too bad. When you kill him, he drops a quest item called Black Venom. Pick it up, then use a portal to leave the zone. When you get back to the Chamber of Sins, talk to Silk to give him the Black Venom and he'll give you an obsidian key in exchange. Take it, then run through whichever door is closest to the waypoint and keep running in a straight line until you find the stairs to the Chamber of Sins level 2. At first, it'll be covered by some pink misty stuff, but since you have the obsidian key, it should dissipate as you get close. Once it's gone, head down the stairs. The Chamber of Sins level 2 is also pretty much the same as it was in Act 2, except this time it has a new Ascendancy Trial in it for you to complete. One other thing to note is that this trial is the last one you need to complete in order to unlock the second difficulty of the Lord's Labyrinth. But even though it is technically unlocked after this point, I usually prefer to wait until the beginning of Act 8 to attempt it. With that in mind, find and complete the trial, then move on to the exit. The last section of the zone has the same big long hallway that you had to run through to fight Veritas in Act 2. This time, however, there is no boss, so just keep running past the old boss room and around the big metal fence until you find the button labeled Secret Passage. Click on it, then go through the door that opens. The den is a relatively long and linear zone, so it's not really possible to get lost, but it does take a while to run through. When you get close to the end of the zone, you'll find a little crevice with a pair of unique monsters in it. They're not objectives for any quest and don't drop anything particularly special, so you can ignore them and run right past. There may be a fork in the road somewhere near the unique monsters, but they both lead to exactly the same place, so it doesn't really matter which way you go. When you find the exit, continue on to the Ashen Fields. When you enter the zone, run directly downward to find the road, then follow it to find your way to the Fortress Encampment. This is a boss room where you have to fight Groost, the mean shopkeeper and quest NPC from Act 2. When you go inside, several waves of enemies will spawn and arrows will rain down into the arena. Dodge the arrows and kill the enemies until Groost himself eventually spawns. He's not particularly difficult to kill, but he does have a particularly troublesome attack where he throws a volley of several spears, perfectly aimed at your character's location no matter where you run. The further you are from him, the easier it is to dodge the spears, since you have more time to get out of the way as they fly toward you. If you still find yourself having a hard time dodging them, you can also hide behind the giant totem in the center of the arena, as the spears will not go through it. When Groost is dead, Sin will swoop in and unlock the soul of Ralakesh in your Pantheon panel. After that, go through the door to the Northern Forest on the top left side of the arena. The first thing you need to do in this zone is find the entrance to another zone called the Dread Thicket. The easiest way to find it is to run from the entrance toward the bottom left until you find a wall, then follow that wall toward the top. Most of the time, you'll find the entrance to the Dread Thicket on the leftmost wall before too long, but there is one specific layout where the door to the Dread Thicket is somewhere in the middle section of the zone to the right of your character if you're following that leftmost wall. If that's the case, you'll have to run around the middle of the first half of the map until you find it. When you do manage to locate the door, now is not quite the time to go through it. First, you need to open a portal right outside, then continue to run towards the top right side of the zone until you find the entrance to the Causeway. From here, you're on a bit of a timer since you need to get through this zone and the one after it before the 8 to 15 minute instance timer expires on your instance of the Northern Forest and closes your portal. The Causeway is very large and has a lot of broken pathways, but if you have a travel skill that lets you jump like Leap Slam or Flame Dash, then you can jump over pretty much any of the gaps that you run into with ease. There are a couple different layouts you may run into here, but if you start by running to the top right of the zone, you should be able to get through it relatively easily no matter how the zone generates. Most of the time, you'll be able to run in a straight line from the entrance to the exit in the top right corner. If that's not the case and you find yourself running into a bunch of walls as you try to run to the top right, instead follow the wall on your character's left side and it should let you wrap all the way around to the location of the exit. Whichever layout you get, when you find the door to the next zone, somewhere on the same platform there should be a box labeled Kishara's Lockbox. Open it up and collect Kishara's star from inside, then go through the door. The Vaal City is one of the more difficult zones to navigate in the entire campaign because it's huge, there are tons of walls and doors to block your path, and the actual location of the goal can be pretty difficult to find. Our goal here is simply to find the waypoint, which also happens to be right next to the exit. Wherever the waypoint spawns, it's usually surrounded on several sides by this very thick wall covered in plants. You need to not only find the correct set of walls that contains the waypoint, but then you also need to find your way into that set of walls without accidentally exploring the whole zone. There are several different ways the zone can generate, so it's hard to give definitive advice for how to get through it, but there are a couple tricks that may help in some cases. Generally, you want to start by running from the entrance toward the top left. If you make it up the first set of stairs and are immediately greeted by a big chasm, then turn left and continue following the edge of that chasm until you reach one of those big green walls. In my testing with layouts like this, the waypoint was usually located behind that first big wall that I found. So run to the top right to follow along the edge of the wall until it ends, go around the end and run back to the left until you find the waypoint. If you go up the stairs at the very beginning and you don't find a big chasm right away, then keep running to the top left until you find some of the big green walls, then run around them to see if you can spot the waypoint and the exit on your minimap. If you don't see them, keep exploring the zone and checking more green walls until they do show up. Once you find them, run around the wall closest to them until you find an entrance point, grab the waypoint, and use it to teleport back to town. When you get there, talk to Whalem on the bottom right side of town to turn in Kishara's star for a skill point, talk to Aramir to get another skill point for killing Groost, then talk to Helena to get a pair of boots for killing Maligaro. After taking the boots from Helena, she'll also try to give you a necklace that you need for a different quest after killing Groost. That quest isn't worth taking the time to complete, so just ignore the amulet and move on. When you're done with all that, if you manage to get through the Causeway and the Vaal City fast enough, your portal to the Northern Forest should still be open. If it is, go through and enter the Dread Thicket, which should be right next to your portal. If the portal closed, it's no big deal. Just use the waypoint to go back to the northern forest and find the Dread Thicket again the same way you did the first time by exploring the bottom of the zone, then following the leftmost wall until you reach the entrance. When you make it inside the Dread Thicket, you have 3 goals. First, there are 7 fireflies scattered across the zone and marked with exclamation marks. They spawn in totally random locations and you need to find and collect all of them. Second, there's a unique monster named the Dreadstone located somewhere in the zone. You don't need to kill it, but in the middle of the area that it spawns, you can find a crafting recipe that's good to have. Lastly, there's a door to an arena called the Den of Despair. Inside is a boss named Gruthkul, Mother of Despair, and killing her will cause Sin to swoop in and unlock the soul of Gruthkul in your Pantheon panel. Once you've killed the boss, collected the fireflies, and found the crafting recipe, go back to town and talk to Aramir to get a skill point for killing Gruthkul. After that, use the waypoint to go back to the Vaal City. When you get there, you should see Yena standing next to the blocked door right in front of you. Talk to her to give her the fireflies, then she'll promptly turn into a fox and burn the webs away from the door, allowing you to go through. The Temple of Decay level 1 is split into 2 sections. The first section you can usually get through by running toward the bottom right until you hit a wall, then run as far to the right as you can along that wall. The second section of the zone can spawn in a couple different ways, but generally, if you find yourself spawning in a corner on the left side of the zone, you'll be able to find the exit on the far right side of the zone, and if you spawn in a corner on the right side of the zone, you'll be able to find the exit on the far left side of the zone. While you're exploring the second section, you may find a slightly larger room with a unique monster in it named Blightblade. You don't need to kill it, but finding that is usually a good sign that you're on the right path. When you find the exit, continue through to the Temple of Decay level 2. Level 2 is split into 2 large sections with 1 extra small section at the end leading to the arena. The path can change a bit from layout to layout, but you can navigate the 2 large sections the same way you navigated the second section of level 1. Whatever corner of the map you spawn in, the door to the next section will always be in the opposite corner. There may be some chasms and broken bridges between you and the opposite corner, but make your way over or around them, and you should get to the next section before too long. The third and final section of the zone is much smaller than the others. When you get there, run towards the center of the zone from whichever side you spawn on, and before too long, you should see a door on your minimap. Run over to that door and go through to enter the arena for Act 7's final boss. Arakaali is a giant purple spider thing that spawns in the top corner of the arena when you walk into the middle of the zone, and as she spawns, you'll be able to hear Silk yapping from the top left side of the room. She has too many attacks for me to go through one by one, but generally, the scariest ones are all cone-shaped, which means the farther you are away from her, the harder they are to avoid. So when I'm fighting her, I usually try to stand very close to her face. Occasionally during the fight, the crystals on the edges of the arena will light up and fire laser beams at your location from 2 different angles. They have a really long charge-up time, so make sure not to let that hit you. At other times, Arakaali will disappear from the corner she's on, then climb up in one of the other 2 corners of the room. Just follow her to whichever corner of the room she goes to and keep standing close so you can have an easier time dodging her attacks. When you get her down to about half health, she'll go over and eat Silk to heal herself a little bit and continue the fight. The scariest attack in Phase 2 is when she starts slamming her feet and spawning big purple projectiles on the opposite side of the room. These projectiles will slowly converge on her location, and if you're standing right next to her, they can actually be kind of difficult to avoid. So when you see her doing the little dance, run away from her to avoid most of the projectiles, then get back in close to continue avoiding the other attacks. Once you figure out how to deal with all that, you should be able to finish the fight pretty easily. After she's dead, Sin will swoop in and unlock another major Pantheon power for you. When you're done looking at it, go up the stairs where Silk was and go out the door to the Sarn Ramparts to start Act 8. That's the entire act, and those are the paths that I take. If you have any questions, feel free to ask them in the comments or in my chat while I'm live both here and on Twitch. If you found this guide helpful, don't forget to like and subscribe for more like it. If you want to see similar guides for the rest of the acts, I'll put a playlist of all of them in the pinned comment and the description down below. Lastly, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in another video.